How's it going? Welcome to the Minute channel. This is Kuro. Today we're going to be actually answering a question that a lot of people have asked many times, especially right now with Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne coming out, and that is, what is the best Megaten game to start with? I know it can be overwhelming. I know there's a ton of games from spin-offs to mainline games to Persona games. So today we're just going to talk about like kind of the overall picture of Megaten games and what I think will be some good options to start with, whether you are a brand new beginner or somebody that is just getting into the series from the Persona side or something like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Shin Megami Tensei is a long-standing franchise. It's been there for like 35 years. So overall, there's been a ton of games that have come out in a lot of different consoles and stuff like that. So just keep in mind, because a lot of the series has been on older consoles, there's actually a lot of games that have not been coming into the West until much later. So personally, I think a good way to start will be with Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, which is recently just coming out in HD. It's a HD remaster, which is actually available on modern consoles such as the Switch, PlayStation 4, the computer. So that's really already like a huge plus, because again, a lot of these games are not really available on modern consoles. You're probably gonna have to emulate a lot of these or play them on older console like the PlayStation 3 or the 3DS or the DS, depending on what you're looking at. So one of my other games that I really like is Shin Megami Tensei 4, which is the newest iteration, which came out on the 3DS. It's still fairly accessible. You can still get a 3DS and you can still buy it on the store. Finding physical copies of these games may be a little tricky. It is quite expensive. One thing that I forgot to mention is one of the coolest things about Megaten is that most of the game, I'll say about like 90% of the games, don't really have a consequential continuation in story. So you can actually play any Shin Megami Tensei games, whether it's Shin Megami Tensei 1 or Devil Survivor or any of the titles in the whole series, and you're actually gonna be okay. Even games where they do have a tie-in, they are still enough to that you can actually play the entire game by itself, which is a really cool thing, because just like Persona, whether you want to start in Persona 5 or Persona 3 or Persona 1 or whatever Persona game you want to start on, you actually can just play any of them and you won't be lost. You know, the story is unique to itself. Sure, they do have some Easter eggs and they do have some things that bring you back from the TP series, but overall, nothing will actually kind of stop you from playing the game. So going back into Shin Megami Tensei 4, overall, Shin Megami Tensei 4 is really good, I think, and it's actually one of the best games to start with, because it does help you learning a lot of the new mechanics. Nocturne actually does that too pretty well, and difficulty level, although they can start to be a little difficult, you actually get better over time. By the time that you finish the game, you are a total badass with a bunch of really badass demons, and if you learn the mechanics correctly, you're actually gonna fare pretty well. So as long as you learn the mechanics and just take your time and learning a lot of stuff, any of the Shin Megami Tensei games will get you where you need to go. Some of the other spin-off games, which I actually games that I quite love as well, will be games like I mentioned before, the Devil Survivor series. This actually is one of the series that I would recommend the most if you're interested into the Persona games or if you're interested into the Fire Emblem games. Why these two particular series? Both of the series feature a teenager protagonist in a school-like environment, although Devil Survivor happens in a different scenario, but it does have a lot of the same Persona elements, although not everything, but some stuff are pretty interesting there. The thing about it is Devil Survivor features not a turn-based RPG like a lot of these other Shin Megami Tensei games, but it actually features a more Fire Emblem style combat system, very reminiscent again to it, very similar in the strategic aspect of it, and it's really cool to see kind of a lot of the things that you will typically do in a turn-based RPG and how that translates into the strategic RPG. Definitely really good games. Both of these games, again, Devil Survivor 1 or 2, are really good, and you actually don't have to play 1 to play 2, or you don't have to play 2 to play 1, or vice versa. You can actually play either or and you still get a full story. It's a really fantastic story. The characters are really good. The artwork is really good. It's made by the art creator for Durarara and Baccano. They're really good anime. So the animation and the games are really good. Well, unfortunately, again, these are DS games. They did make a remaster that they produced into the 3DS. So again, with this kind of stuff, is accessibility is gonna be a big one here. You can only get those on the 3DS. And one of the final games that I will recommend for Megaten players, just kind of beginners, kind of trying to get into the series and everything, is gonna be another game, being the Devil Summoner series. Now, there's a couple different ones that you can get here. There's a Devil Summoner series that you can get in the DS, but there's also two really good games for Raido Kusunoha games on the PlayStation 2, which are also available on the PlayStation 3. These games can be different, and they're kind of really hard to find nowadays. Really, they're really expensive physically, so I think your best bet is probably gonna buy them on the PlayStation 3 if you have one. Particularly, what I like about these games is that these games are hack and slash, similarly to how nowadays we have Persona 5 Strikers, which is also hack and slash type of game, where you can actually control multiple demons, and also have your main protagonist be a hack and slasher. He has a sword, he has a gun, pretty cool stuff. Definitely a pretty cool character, and the way that they did the hack and slash back in the PlayStation 2 can be a real rough and subtle edges, but I really do love the story and I love the characters. This has like a 1920s aesthetic to it, very different from other Shin Megami Tensei games. But check anything of the games out. There's a whole lot of them. There's a lot of guides out there, guides that walk you through every single spin-off game. There's the Devil Kids games, which is kind of like Pokemon style Game Boy games, and there's also the A Strange Journey on the 3DS. There is a Devil Digital Saga on the PlayStation 2. There's all these different games that you can really pick up, and a lot of them really are so different from each other, again, that every experience on every single game that you play is still different. It's a completely different experience when you play every game. I know Persona hit really in the wave of kind of like a lot of the people getting to know them, but there's so many Megaten games that you can play with all the different gameplay styles, with different mechanics, with different storylines, and they're all really good and really interesting. Especially if you like the Persona gameplay, you're definitely not gonna get disappointed. No matter what series you start picking up, you're definitely going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching this, guys. Please comment below if you have any questions regarding any series that I talked about, or if you have any questions pertaining to other Shin Megami Tensei games that I talk about. And also, if you play other Megaten games, drop some comments here. What would you recommend to new beginners, to people that are just starting into the Megaten games? Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.